degenerative disc disease is a disease where your disc essentially is wearing out. So your disc is a shock absorber, right? That's its function. And the disc, it turns out, is very, very hydrated. It means it's quite full of water. Compare the disc to a sponge. Think of a sponge that you just filled with water, right? You soak that sponge. It's nice and cushiony. But more importantly, if you bend that sponge or twist it, it's flexible, right? Now think of that same sponge that you've left on the counter for a month. Same sponge, hasn't changed, except now it's lost its hydration, it's lost its water. So it is a little stiffer when you press on it, but what happens if you try to bend that sponge? It'll crack, it'll literally tear. And that's what's happening to patients with symptomatic DDD.
Your spine doesn't regenerate, it doesn't get better on its own, fortunately. There's not enough blood flow vasculature in there for that to happen, so you're going to get worse. So it's probably somewhere in just the US a $2 to $2.5 billion lower degenerative disc market that's out there. And then, globally, it's probably close to $4 billion. And that's just the hardware that's going into fuse your spine to keep it in the right spot. So it's an enormous market that's just continuing to grow every single year.
The big gap, Steve, is that we can't really treat the disease biologically. We can fuse your spine where we take the disc out and replace it with bone, basically making your spine stiff, trying to improve its ability to bear load.
You don't want to be fusing things together. You start doing that, you get this adjacent level disease. And most people that end up going in for de novo spinal fusion end up having another level treated down the road, or another surgery down the road, or a couple more surgeries down the road. And so if you can get to the point where that's not part of the whole paradigm, treatment paradigm, that would be a phenomenal outcome for everybody involved. And that's what Discgenetics is really trying to enable here over the coming years.
The ideal treatment would be to regrow that disc, to make it a new biologic disc.
We have this first product, IDCT, Injectable Discogenic Cell Therapy, which has just completed a phase 1/2 clinical trial here in the US and a parallel trial around safety in Japan. And this is a very unique cell population of discogenic cells, which is a progenitor cell, which we inject into a disc in the mild to moderate stage.
With that shot having delivered living cells into your disc that can help repair that disc.
We can achieve some very good results, which we've seen in our phase 1 clinical trial, where we saw durable results around reduction in pain, improvement in disability, improvement in quality of life, and we've seen volume increase over a 2-year period, suggesting this regenerative effect.
And we know from our preliminary studies that can result in substantial pain relief, substantial restoration of function. In other words, significant improvements in not only pain, but quality of life. I think it will become a go-to. Obviously, if we can get you better with an exercise program or a little chiropractic manipulation or some acupuncture or an over-the-counter analgesic, we would do that before we'd ever inject cells. But the patients who don't respond to that non-operative intervention, rather than having to go to something much more invasive, will have the option of getting the shot with the live cells. And I believe, based on what we've seen preliminarily, that lots and lots of those patients will completely avoid surgery.
We're currently having very productive conversations with the FDA based around the safety that we saw in our human clinical trials in both the US and Japan, and the patient-reported outcomes and the disc volume increase, which yielded this RMAT designation, which is allowing us, we believe, to accelerate to a certain extent. We are going to have to do a phase 3 study, which we think is going to take us somewhere between 2 and 3 years. We also are looking for some other approvals and registries around outside the US. We're already in the process of the scale up and scale out of our manufacturing facility here in Salt Lake City, so that we will have doses immediately available upon approval.
We believe that for the time involved in applying that expertise, that caregivers will be well reimbursed. And so the combination of good reimbursement and happy patients is a great combination to attract many physicians to delivering this therapy.
This is a massive threat to a lot of companies with humongous amounts of revenue selling hardware. There's always, the potential for things on the clinical side to be challenging, but if Flag and his team get it right, you are disrupting people with hundreds of millions of dollars, not billions of dollars of revenue, and they will have to have this asset in their portfolio. I really have to applaud the clinical rigor here. That's what's really unique as far as what Dysgenics has done versus a lot of others historically. So again, they're doing all the right things. It takes some time to get there, but if they get it right, I mean, the value creation here could be dramatic. Probably some of the best in all of orthopedics over the next 5 to 10 years.
We are absolutely focused on our primary mission here, which is to deliver an effective product to treat this huge problem of degenerative disc disease. But there's no question that there are multiple potential applications, probably throughout the body.
We are doing some great basic science work around cells that produce more cartilage that can hopefully repair cartilage defects in other parts of the body, shoulder, knees, hips.
And just to put that into context real quick for folks, I mean, hip and knee market, globally, it's 2 times the size of the spine market. So huge, shoulders huge. But if they get spine kind of right, it's a home run, absolute home run.
I'm really inspired daily by the work that we're doing in all aspects of our scale up of manufacturing and our cold chain logistics and how we manage the quality control and the things we're doing to look at the best way to keep the cell and the dose, right and ready to go, and how we're optimizing that through the scale up of the manufacturing process.
I get up every day looking for revolutionary technologies in the space because I typically only get to see evolutionary ones, and this in that bucket of revolutionary, changing the way that patients are treated that you just don't get to see very often. So I'm extremely excited, not only as probably a user in the future if they get it right, but also what it can do as far as treating a ton of patients out there with the technology that's more similar to the evolution that we made in science versus some of the barbaric approaches that we still have in terms of treating patients.
And I'll add, I'm an actively practicing physician, a neurosurgeon and spine surgeon. I have lots of patients who need a product like the one we're trying to develop, and I'm looking forward to being able to deliver it to them.